This next example that we're going to look at is another example where we've got a coefficient that's not 1, but it's a little bit more tricky. So I'm going to do the same process where I need to get down to a 1x squared in order to go through this completing the square process. So I'm going to factor out whatever that number is. In this case it's a 2. Now I factor that out. I've got x squared, but 2 doesn't factor out evenly from 3x. That's okay, I'm going to keep going, I'm just going to have to use fractions. So really what I'm doing is dividing out of 2, which means I have 3/2 x. If I multiply this 2 back in, I would get this original problem. And so we're going to go through the same process, we just happen to have fractions. I'm still going to leave my space, and I'm still going to subtract 5. Now, everything with the completing the square process is the same. I still divide my middle term by 2, square it. That middle term divided by 2 is what I use in my binomial. Everything's the same, we just have a fraction. So, when I take 3/2 and divide it by 2, you can think of that as the same as multiplying by 1/2. That gives me 3/4. So 3/2 divided by 2 is 3/4. Now when you square that, I'm going to square the 3 and square the 4. That's the same as 9/16. So again, 3/2 divided by 2 is 3/4, squared is 9/16. Now, I need to offset that. I can't just add 9/16 to the problem. But again, it's not as though I have added 9/16. I've added 2 times 9/16. So I need to subtract that out here. And I'm going to go from there. Now, for my final answer, remember that middle term divided by 2 is going to be 3/4. And then I just need to offset this. Now, in the interest of space, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this. Rather than 5/1, I'm going to use 16 as my denominator there. So 5 times 16 would be 50, 80. And now I have a common denominator where I can subtract. So minus 80 minus 18 over 16. Minus 98 over 16. Now I need to go ahead and reduce that. So let's see. I can divide that by 2. And that's my reduced fraction. And that's my final answer. It has fractions, and that's okay. I still follow my steps and did it using completing the square.